What's up, guys? It's your boy, the Essential John L. Crossfire, aka The Real Main Event, aka The Rogue Soldier, and today you're about to learn firsthand just what it's like to be caught in the crossfire. But above all else, prepare yourself, because in this very moment, today, right now, you are about to be caught in conversation. Hello, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Actually, if you're a child, you probably shouldn't be listening to this, seeing as how it is always marked as E for explicit. It's a nice sunny day outside, although it's still cold as balls. Birds are chirping, so if you can hear them in the background, my bad. This is far from a professional setup, as you guys are very well aware of this point. But there has been so much professional wrestling in this past week, and there's only going to be so much more in the next week, and I am pretty freaking keen. So far, as I record this, we are 2 shows down of the 4 World Series wrestling shows, all of which I will be talking about on next week's episode, along with Wrestling Revolver's Cage of Horrors show, which is on today as I record this, so I'm trying to dodge spoilers. And I still need to catch up on the entire Deathmatch Circus weekend from ICW No Holds Barred as well, of course. Our boy Joel Bateman went over there, killed it, became a 2-time American Deathmatch champion, and has actually brought the title home here to Australia. I cannot wait to see what he does with that title here in DMDU. But shout out actually to Rafe Houston from Faces and Feels, because he will actually be doing an entire breakdown of that whole Deathmatch Circus weekend on his podcast. So I'm very excited to listen to that once I have eventually caught up on the full events. But I suggest you guys, if you're into the whole, deathmatch thing, go over there, give Rafe a like, follow, subscribe, favorite, whatever the fuck they say these days with the social media lingo. But yeah, he does a really good job. On this week's episode, however, I will be running through the highlights of WWE Money in the Bank and Impact Against All Odds, respectively. I'll be going through the full results and then just hitting some highlight points as I go. And then I'll be doing a full breakdown or a recap-ish, as I have coined on this show, of Deathmatch Down Under's Great Emu War Games event, which, spoiler alert, had me losing my goddamn mind from the get-go. But we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to jump straight into it this week. The song of the week for this week is You Are Not Your Past by Citizen Soldier. As I've stated in the last couple of episodes, the next handful of episodes will most likely be a Citizen Soldier song, due because I'm trying to catch up on their latest releases, and honestly, all their music, it's for a good cause. They're constantly fighting, the stigma on mental health and reminding everyone that it is okay to not be okay, which is something that I always say here on the show. Just reach out, talk to people, yada, 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 etc., etc. There's lots of services out there to help you with this sort of thing. We live in 2022, guys. Although certain parts of the world seem to be going fucking backwards, I'd like to think that I'm in a place where I can openly talk about my mental health without being mocked. But again, the song of the week this week is You Are Not Your Past by Citizen Soldier. We're going to just keep this moving along. We're going to jump straight in to the highlights from WWE Money in the Bank, which I did predictions for in last week's episode. Kicking off the show with the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match, we had Liv Morgan capturing the Women's Money in the Bank briefcase. I was a little let down by this match. It looked good on paper, but it seemed very rushed, and it kind of ended up a little bit sloppy. Shotzi Blackheart has actually copped a lot of flack on social media because of that match, and I'm like, that's not fair. You can't single out one person. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, it just didn't click for these women. They still had a good match, but they really needed to clean some of it up. But who am I to talk? I'm just a mark with a microphone. Usually in these types of matches, everyone gets some sort of shine and, they get their shit in, brother, or I guess sister, but nobody in this match seemed to have really got a moment in this match outside of Becky Lynch, who is already a megastar, and then Liv getting the win. And of course, Raquel Rodriguez unfortunately stood out for all the wrong reasons, and in all fairness, it may have been nerves, which I fully understand, but this whole match just kind of made me shake my head and cringe a little, and it's nothing personal. I appreciate the effort put forth by all these women. They all put forth everything they had. They all gave it 110%. You could tell that, but something just didn't mesh well, unfortunately, but it was what it was. Liv Morgan wins, kicks me off at 1-0 with my predictions. Match number 2 saw Bobby Lashley defeating Theory to become the new US champion. There was a scary spot on the outside of the ring with Theory and Bobby Lashley. Theory almost hit his head on the floor, but Lashley's scary strength saved him very narrowly, but saved him nonetheless. Thank all the wrestling gods. Lashley countering Theory into a military press with Theory in midair was just freaking awesome. I literally screamed at my TV pretty loud off that spot. Like, as I said, Lashley just has scary strength. Lashley somehow, I don't know how he's done it, but he just keeps getting himself more and more over every week. And I have no doubt that he will be a world champion again sooner than later. Lashley was bleeding from the mouth. I didn't quite catch what caused that, but it was a really good match for what it was. Theory hitting Lashley with his own move in the spear got me. I always love that spot. You know, when someone's cocky and they steal their opponent's moves. Just, it's a little thing, but it always pops me no matter what. Put me at 1-1 for my predictions. And also the first 2 matches happened in the order that I predicted as well. This was messed up, however, in match 3 because I predicted the SmackDown Women's Championship match would be on, but in fact, it was the Raw Women's Championship match. We have Carmella being defeated by Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair defeats Carmella to retain the Raw Women's Championship. Carmella did attack Bianca after the fact, though, possibly carrying on that feud until SummerSlam, which would, you know, I'm still waiting for Rhea Ripley to come back and get that Bianca versus Rhea Ripley match. But I said to Mrs. Crossfire, I said, Carmella versus Bianca at SummerSlam does actually make a lot of sense because last year there was a replacement for Bayley against Bianca Belair. It was meant to be Carmella in kayfabe. She was then attacked by the returning Becky Lynch. So it's kind of a little bit of long-term storytelling there, brother. But Carmella did attack Bianca Belair, so I'm sure in some form or fashion there will be a rematch. It hasn't been announced as of this recording. This does take me to 2-1 in my predictions. Match number 4. Holy fucking shit. The Usos retaining the Tag Team Championships against the Street Profits, and just an absolutely fantastic match. Not that I think anyone was expecting any different with these teams, to be honest. One of the best matches I've seen all year, regardless of promotion. These guys proving that tag team wrestling definitely isn't dead. The finish was beautifully done. I genuinely didn't see Montez Ford get his shoulder up, so I love the way that they did that because it's exactly what they were going for. And I did love this because it gives the Street Profits, you know, basically a guaranteed rematch in a sense, because although, you know, the referee counted the 3, the replay did show that his shoulder was up, so it's a tainted victory. And then it still keeps the Usos strong as well, because on a technicality, they can still say that no one's kicked out of their 1D finisher in the record books. And I'm genuinely very excited to see where this continues to go. My prediction / fantasy booking for SummerSlam was a triple threat TLC match with a New Day involved as well, because I wanted the Street Profits to win without pinning the Usos, and then that way they'd finally pin them properly in the UK to get that moment, because the whole story is they can't pin the Usos. But they have since announced on SmackDown that it's going to be a rematch, but there's going to be a special guest referee involved, so it'll be interesting to see who the special guest referee is for that. But regardless, the Usos did retain, putting me at 3-1 in my predictions. Match number 5 saw Ronda Rousey defeating Natalya to retain the SmackDown Women's Championship. Take a shot every time Natalya called Ronda a bitch. Seriously, like, the amount of times I know she's trying to get cheap here, but it was like, I wish it wasn't so early in the morning here in Australia when it ends, because I definitely would have had a drink in my hand for sure. But Ronda putting Natalya in the sharpshooter and doing the Shawn Michaels pose on Bret Hart's birthday, no less, made me spit out my coffee. Natalya took a nasty spill into the ring post, which had me very concerned. Correct prediction here as well, and with all due respect to Natalya, as much as she has paved the way for a lot of women of today, I don't think anyone honestly saw her winning, but here's what it is, I guess. Liv Morgan comes out, cashes in her Money in the Bank contract to become the new SmackDown Women's Champion. And I'm very, very happy for her, but I didn't like the way they did it. Like, I know that, you know, you've got to show that Ronda's still a badass, and oh my god, has Liv wasted her cash in, but I feel like the way they did it made Liv look very weak in the process. Like, it just made her look pathetic, in my opinion, and Mrs. Crossfire said the same thing. It kind of pissed us both off, if we're honest, but does make me 4-1 in predictions from last week. Of course, I didn't factor in the actual Liv Morgan cash-in, so I'm not counting that match. I didn't even factor in cash-ins at all on the last episode, because mainly I was just hoping that, especially for the women, whoever held it would hold it longer than a day before cashing in, because so far, every women's Money in the Bank holder has only cashed in it, or has only held it for a few hours or at least a day most. The most that a person has held it outside of that is Carmella, which ironically, she actually has the longest reign of all time. Well, not reign, but she's held the case longer than anyone before cashing in, which some people can say, oh, that's not a record. She did the longest time doing nothing. But yeah, it's just weird that all the women have continuously cashed in either on the night or the night after. And then the one that hasn't has the overall for both men's and women. But I digress. I'm rambling. Kevin Owens versus Ezekiel was apparently meant to happen, which I did my predictions for last week, but it got scrapped, so I'm assuming that was due to some sort of time constraints, because they randomly started showing the hype package for that match before they then switched into the video package for Ronda and Natalya. And then in the main event, Austin Theory was added at the last minute to the men's Money in the Bank ladder match and ended up winning the whole damn thing, thus making an incorrect prediction, and it makes me 4-2 with my predictions overall. For those that follow me on social media, though, you would have seen in real time the Instagram story that I did put up with a theory of my own, was that John Cena would come back and challenge Theory to a match at SummerSlam, most likely in the opener of the show, but Theory still successfully cashes in at the end of the show, specifically for the WWE Championship, keeping Roman's Universal title reign intact, since he is the current longest reigning Universal Champion of all time. And that also leaves Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre for the UK TV. But since then, it has been announced that it's Bobby Lashley defending the United States Championship against Theory. So Theory's getting a rematch. So that Cena match is now off the table, but I still feel like in some form or fashion, even if he's a transitional champion at this point, people may still think that that's a waste of a cash-in, but even if he's a transitional champion, I still think Theory winning the WWE Championship specifically the WWE Championship, and then defending it in the UK, maybe that's where we can get the triple threat that I've been getting vibes of between Lashley and John Cena. Maybe that's where Cena comes back, because Lashley retains the US title at SummerSlam, and then he can be like, well, I've beat you twice in a row, I'm first in line, and then here comes big match John. I don't know, but yeah, my theory originally was that we have Cena going for his 17th World Championship against Theory in the UK. Theory somehow squeezes out a victory, and then, as I said, Bobby Lashley somehow involved in the mix. But I don't know, despite all of that, just fantasy booking, WWE really threw a monkey wrench at me. I thought I had it all worked out, and guess I was wrong, but at the end of the day, I'm just a fucking mark, so what do I know? But overall, regardless of this year's Money in the Bank not being as strong as last year's, there was still a lot left to unpack, which is good to see, because for all the slack that WWE gets from the internet, there's quite a number of things to look forward to, or possibly being built towards off the back of this, no matter how it unfolds. And all in all, I'd still give it a thumbs up. Like, their weekly shows are so, I don't want to say abysmal, because the most recent episode of Raw that I randomly decided to watch was actually pretty good, but their weekly TV, especially Raw, is mainly subpar, whereas SmackDown still does fairly well, but Raw's usually fairly subpar. But then their pay-per-views, or PLEs, premium live events, every one that they've had so far this year has been a pretty good to great card. Like, nothing's been super, super fantastic. Like, Hell in a Cell was a really good show, and WrestleMania was a lot better than people were expecting, but they've still been on a consistent basis worth watching. But that will conclude my Money in the Bank talk for this episode. However, hit me up on social media with your thoughts and opinions on this show. As always, this show is about creating conversations, hence the title. Let's just have a discussion, possibly a friendly debate. From a fan response, they have done a great job at creating new stars, as Liv Morgan was rained down with "You Deserve It" chance. I still feel like the victory could have been more decisive for a Money in the Bank cash-in. That's just me. I just feel like they made it look silly, but Austin Theory, or just Theory I should say, apologize. I'm going to trip over that for a while after knowing his first name for so long. Anyway, he got a great reaction on the opposite end of the spectrum as a heel, and I can't wait to see what the future does unfold for him, whether or not his cash-in is successful or not. Remains to be seen, but I'm really looking forward to that. He's copying a lot of heat, but at the end of the day, he's a heel, so in my mind, I feel like he's doing his job. Over on the Impact Wrestling side of things, at Impact Against All Odds, straight off the bat, popped for the pre-show because we had Black Taurus defeating the Laredo Kid. I'm a huge mark for both of those guys. It was a little bit frustrating with the ads in the middle of the match on YouTube, but when you're watching for free, you can't really complain, I guess. I was hoping that Fight TV would have the pre-show there since you could still purchase the actual show on there, but I guess it makes sense in a weird way since it is technically an Impact Plus / Ultimate Insider event. Regardless, it was awesome to see both of these guys kill it in some X-Division action. And then Brian Myers defeats Rich Swann to become the new digital media champion. I almost felt like this match could have been on the main card. Like, I know that this whole point of the championship is essentially that it's basically an internet championship, but these guys had a really good match and could have easily swapped out for something on the main card, in my opinion. And again, the ads drove me nuts because it did take away from the action just a touch, but as I said, still a pretty good match. The handspring cutter from Rich Swann on the stage near the end of the match got me good as well. I always love when they utilize the ramp attached to the ring and incorporate the ropes with it. I did come to learn as well that I also could have watched the pre-show ad-free within the actual Against All Odds video itself as they edited them together for the Impact Ultimate Insiders. And I guess you live and learn, so hopefully if you're a dumbass like me with technology, you'll keep an eye out for that next time. But I just assumed when I saw the video and it said 3.5 hours that the show had just ran long. But this is why you shouldn't assume things, I guess. But nonetheless, I digress. Over on the main card, Motor City Machine Guns, Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley did defeat the Bullet Club, Chris Bay and Ace Austin, in a great display of tag team action. Pretty hot start. I did appreciate the great teamwork, but at the same time, someone who has been a referee, I was getting genuinely mad that it was taking so long for some of these spots. And it's not just these guys either. It's a huge problem in modern wrestling, but it just grinds my gears, as they say, because you as a competitor are essentially burying the fucking referee. But that's just my 2 cents. It is what it is. All of these guys had really great chemistry nonetheless, and I could watch them wrestle over and over. I thoroughly enjoyed the promo by Team Impact heading into the 10-man tag match with Honor No More later on in the card. Match number 2, we had Chelsea Green and Deonna Purrazzo defeating Mickie James and Mia Yim. The finish had me momentarily worried after both Mickie and Chelsea kind of got wrapped up with each other. I was concerned for Mickie's head and Chelsea's leg. Mickie and Mia came out to a freaking dope mashup, by the way, of both of their respective theme songs. Honor No More had a backstage promo segment of their own. Vincent had been pulled from the tag match and has been replaced with PCO. Match number 3, we had Speedball Mike Bailey defeating Trey Miguel to retain the Impact X Division Championship. First title defense under the belt here for Speedball. And it was a pretty good match too. Not that anyone would expect anything different, from these two guys. Both Mike Bailey and Trey Miguel are just superb athletes in their own right. Both guys were targeting each other's legs, which I appreciated because Speedball was trying to ground Trey, and Trey trying to ground Speedball to an extent, but more importantly, trying to weaken those trademark knees and kicks of Speedball, and this played beautifully into the double down that they did have in the match. I did see a spoiler for this match, unfortunately, but I was still on the edge of my seat the entire time for the most part, mainly because, why? Because I'm a mark, as we all are. That's the whole reason I'm doing this podcast. That's the whole reason those of you that tune in, but the fans in attendance were certainly marks with their holy shit and this is awesome chants. And honestly, I feel like all of them were definitely warranted in this situation here. But again, just my opinion. Match number 4 saw Taya and Rosemary defeating Tennille Dashwood and Giselle Shaw to retain the Knockouts Tag Team Championship. Giselle was filling in here for an injured Madison Rayne. I believe she broke her nose, I believe was the injury. But I did love the way the finish was executed here. Tennille wanted Shaw to come in and hit the collab with her, which is, of course, the finisher of Dashwood and Rayne. Shaw, not being the usual tag team partner, had a bit of mistiming leading to some miscommunication and an inside cradle from Taya to steal the win. The Influence did attack Rosemary and Taya after the match before Marsha Slamovic comes out and makes it known that Tenille Dashwood is her next target. Looking forward to that. Marsha Slamovic, very great competitor. Awesome to see her killing it in Impact Wrestling. Match number 5, we have Team Impact defeating Honor No More. Huge pop for seeing Wildcat Chris Harris back in the ring, especially alongside tag team partner Cowboy James Storm. Of course, AMW, America's Most Wanted, a staple of the early days of TNA. Of course, hardcore fans like me are probably going, of course, other hardcore fans like me are probably just going, duh, we already know that, but just a huge pop for the finish with AMW hitting their tag team finisher, the Death Sentence. All the nostalgia here. This is the second event in a row that Honor No More have been defeated. Of course, the last one at Slammiversary was the first time ever for them, but this time it was actually due to miscommunication between the teams themselves. So now that they've lost, they're breaking down a little bit. I still have a feeling, admittedly, maybe more fantasy booking and wishful thinking, but I still have a feeling that this is going to end inside Lethal Lockdown. Match number 6, we had the Clockwork Orange House of Fun match. We had Moose defeating Sami Callihan after interference from Steve Macklin. Steve Macklin was posing as a cameraman. The video package leading into this with the promo by Raven, who made this match popular, was just fucking amazing, awesome, bone-chilling, all at the same time. This was the match I was most excited for. Raven actually joined commentary on this one, which made it even more exciting, as I wasn't expecting that. They announced that he was going to be there in person, but I thought it was just going to be kind of, sitting in the crowd sort of thing, and they'd put the camera on him kind of watching the match, but he was on commentary, and I may be a little bit biased, but definitely did not disappoint. We had staples, Lego, glass, barbed wire, and all your other standard hardcore gimmicks like trash cans, doors, and chairs. Raven fucking killed me with his delivery of the line, "Stapler to the dick." Just so much fuckery, but all just so beautifully executed. I'm really excited to see where this potential Steve Macklin versus Sami Callihan feud will take us, but we cannot forget about the excellent performance put in by Moose, and he has been doing so for the last 2 to 3 years consistently in Impact Wrestling at this point. Match number 7 saw Jordynne Grace defeating Tasha Steelz to retain the Impact Knockouts Championship. As a mark, I was happy for Jordynne, very happy for this, but Tasha Steelz, got to give her credit, continues to do a great job of continuing to come into her own as a performer. Match number 8 / the main event, we had Josh Alexander defeating Joe Doring to retain the Impact World Championship. I said going into this that this would be a sleeper match of sorts, as Joe Doring hadn't had a chance to show himself to his full extent, at least in Impact, just yet. And I feel like Josh Alexander as the world champion was the perfect person to do that with. Pretty solid card here all around. The Impact Ultimate Insider subscription on YouTube is worth it just for the monthly events alone, in my opinion, but I do hope that they do fix their full Impact Plus subscription on their app, because I really want to go back and continue my binge of some pretty much anything and everything classic TNA. The next monthly special for Impact will be Emergence on August 12th, or I guess 13th for us here in Australia, and it will be at Cicero Stadium in Chicago, which is actually a pretty awesome wrestling venue. The match of the week this week is Raven versus CM Punk in a Clockwork Orange House of Fun match at Ring of Honor Beating the Odds in 2003. This is actually just one of the handful of similar matches that these two had all over the country in multiple different companies during that time frame, but this one particular seemed super fitting given the fact that we just had an awesome Clockwork Orange match on the Impact card that I just ran through. And of course, the main event of the DMDU show I'm about to cover is a fucking double cage. It's War Games, bring the violence. But the match of the week this week is Raven versus CM Punk in a Clockwork Orange House of Fun match at Ring of Honor Beating the Odds. Moving on to my review, my breakdown, my recap-ish of Deathmatch Down Under's Great Emu War Games. More history made here for DMDU in their short tenure with the first ever War Games match on Australian soil, and the rest of the card in its own right was absolutely stacked. Many of mark-out moments here, right here, on Court In Conversation. A little cheap up there. The video package at the start of the show was pretty cool. I may be biased due to the fact that they did use Carry On My Wayward Son, which is always a banger in its own right. We have Hawko on ring announcing. We have Aaron Dick, Tyson Baxter, and Bo Hocking on commentary. We kicked off the show with a 2-ring, 10-person clusterfuck scramble, or the Clusterfuck of Doom, as dubbed by Aaron Dick. Give me the fuckery! Straight off the bat, we went balls to the wall. You've got your balls to the wall, man. We have Chanel Phoenix versus Rochelle Rogue versus Jake Wilder versus Bruce Buchanan versus Natasha Valentine versus Tyson Reed versus Sam Yanis versus Levi Nixon versus Scotty Roach versus Emin the Kid. A lot of talented individual in this big old clusterfuck right here. So as expected, it did go from 0 to 100 straight away. Commentary had me chuckling while talking about the Great Emu War, which was part of the pun that this name was named after. Sam Yanis and Levi Nixon, aka SGB, spend the bulk of the contest working together. I really want to see more of Tyson Reed. I absolutely love what he's doing. Super talented dude, and I really love the whole Eshe thing. I'm honestly shocked that we don't have more Eshe wrestlers in Australia, if I'm honest, because I know that there has been a handful of them over the couple of years, but I'm honestly shocked that at this point we're not just overpopulated with them. And that actually might be a great idea for a wrestling promotion. Like, picture this, the Eshe Wrestling Federation. But every wrestler is an Eshe or a lad or a chav or whatever the fuck you want to call it, whatever slang word you want to use, depending where you're from. But instead of championship belts, they're championship bum bags. Eshe, bah! You heard it here first. That is $1 million idea, and you know it. In true modern-day wrestling and scramble fashion, we had some dueling moonsaults by Jake Wilder and Scotty Roach, and that breaks down to everyone getting their shit in, brother, sister, sister, sister. Bruce Buchanan's bad mood was even worse when Chanel Phoenix gets him in an armbar. He has no choice but to submit. Your winner is Chanel Phoenix for the first match in the Clusterfuck of Doom. Match number 2 is a singles match. We have Matt Hayter versus Tarly. If Tarly wins, Hayter will agree to go on a date with her. Starts off with a lot of jaw-jacking back and forth. Both these two really playing their part well. I was in absolute stitches watching these two pretty much the entire match. Tarly tries to get a few quick pins. They compare who had a better butt. And then Hayter does what he does best and takes control with a cheap shot, all while talking trash. Both competitors on multiple occasions using their respective assets as offense and defense. They did say it best on commentary. It's a good thing that this was an 18-plus show, but honestly, this was just a great match. Lots of crowd work. Everything they did meant something. This was just really proof of the whole wrestling is art adage, in my opinion, as it was essentially a bulked-up comedy match, but all the action was really great as well, and the fans in attendance ate up every second of it, and so did I. Tarly comes really close to a submission victory, but Hayter barely made the ropes. Hayter gets a schoolboy and uses the ropes for leverage to get the win. Hayter grabs a mic to seemingly rub the victory in Tarly's face, but swerve, he announces that Tarly still won his heart, and they will still go on a date regardless. Tarly grabs Hayter, carries him out, just rushes him backstage. Who says romance is dead? I guess that makes this a couples match instead of a singles match. No? Just me? No? Well, I guess we'll move on then. Match number 3 is a singles match. We have the Eternal Edward Dusk versus J.K. Moody. Dusk starts this match talking trash and even delivers a slap to Moody. Moody was taking none of that, chops the absolute crap out of Edward Dusk. Dusk does get a nice little receipt in there though. Moody used the referee as a step stool for a standing moonsault, and as someone that has been a referee, I'm not entirely sure that's legal, but hey, wrestling! Dusk launched Moody over the commentary desk right into the lap of Tyson Baxter. Tyson Baxter is, of course, currently out due to a knee injury, so it'll be interesting to see if that does play in to Tyson's return when he eventually comes back. Mrs. Crossfire brought me in some Pikachu-shaped gingerbread cookies while I was watching this match, by the way, and they were freaking delicious. I'm not sure whether or not any of you guys actually care about that, but hey, I'm ADHD as fuck. Dusk spits in the face of Moody, and Moody fires off with a flurry of offense. This was my first time seeing Moody, and I definitely want to see more. His promo that he did on social media leading up to this show was excellent as well. Both these guys very evenly matched. Dusk hits a couple of cutters, but Moody follows it up with a massive clothesline leading to a double down. Had a string of false finishes on both ends, but after a low blow and the wicked end, which is his electric chair dropped into a modified Death Valley driver, Edward Dusk picks up the win. Dusk puts his markings on Moody, this time on the forehead instead of the chest as he'd been doing the last handful of shows, and instead puts the bulk of it on his own chest, so you'll love it. A little bit of character development, a little bit of character progression there for the Eternal One Edward Dusk, but as I said, definitely want to see more of Moody. Match number 4, we have a no disqualification match. We have JXT versus Shazza McKenzie, and then JXT, sorry, it's just infectious the way that he does like the whole finger click and all that, but JXT has some new Scott Hall inspired gear which popped me, of course. Rest in peace, Scott Hall, aka Razor Ramon. We're still very much mourning the passing of him here at Courting Conversation. Shazza came dressed ready for a fight and brings out a whole shopping cart of gimmicks which popped me. Very 90s hardcore wrestling there. I once did that same spot myself, but with a miniature trolley just for comedy effect. They introduced the hardware straight away, JXT taking it to Shazza with a steel chair, which is great storytelling because, of course, it was a pedigree on a chair from JXT to Shazza, which took this rivalry to the next level. Shazza got some colour, which momentarily fired her up until JXT took her for a joyride inside the shopping trolley, which was kind of funny until JXT just rammed it into fucking Shazza's head. Brutal as fuck, but brilliantly done. Shazza tries to get back into it, but JXT, with another callback to the 90s, hits a white Russian leg sweep a la the Sandman with the assist from the kendo stick / Singapore cane. JXT gets a near fall with the JX-Plex. He tries to put Shazza through a door, but Shazza's not having any of that. She powerbombs JXT through the door instead. Shazza hit a backdrop driver, or a Saito suplex, onto JXT through a stack of chairs, which looked awesome, but still wasn't enough for Shazza to get the job done there. Shazza kicked out of the pedigree at 1 and showed some great fire, but JXT powerbombed her into a door not once, but twice, because the first time it didn't break. But Shazza manages to come back and busted a guitar over JXT's head, a la the Honky Tonk Man or Jeff Jarrett. Take your pick, I'm not your dad. Follows up with the Shaztastic Stunner and gets the win. And then we had a backstage segment where the anti-deathmatch party had taken out one of the deathmatch wrestlers, but we didn't get to see who it was. The suspense is killing me. Match number 5, we have a triple threat deathmatch. It is York versus Xavier Black versus Jordan Sampson. The winner of this match would qualify for the Dream Tournament. Props to all these guys as always, because this was fucking brutal. Hence why there was a spot in the tournament at stake. Jordan Sampson wrestling barefoot is bad enough, let alone doing it in a death match. Fuck that. All three men get skewers in their respective heads. First, Xavier Black gets Yorks, and then Sampson, and then the both of them team up to give Black a receipt. York put both opponents through a gusset plate board, with Xavier Black getting the worst of it. We had a cut can chair which went straight into the torso of Jordan Sampson off of York, and then Xavier Black suplexes him back first through a cut can board, both of them covered in sugar-free mother cans, by the way. Sampson gives York a receipt and then some by hitting a senton onto the bed of nails, driving them into York. Of course, he hit the backside of them. He didn't just drive himself back first into nails. Xavier Black was hit with a huge powerbomb by York, also into the bed of nails, this time definitely on the actual nail part. Just fucking Jesus Christ. The commentators were losing their shit at this, and despite the fact that I've already seen that one little clip and I have shared it on social media myself multiple times, I was still losing my shit. Like, just fucking awesome spot there. Obviously, this is a podcast about wrestling. We know what the business is about. Kudos to Xavier Black for taking that bump, because Jesus fucking Christ. We had an awesome spot where York puts Xavier Black through the underside of a barbed wire covered door, but the barbed wire got Jordan Sampson in the face because Jordan Sampson was on the opposite side of that in the corner. Jordan Sampson hit a T-bone suplex on Xavier Black into crushed cinder blocks. Commentary were constantly reminding in this that the reason they're putting it all on the line is because it was for a qualifying match for the Dream Tournament, showing what it means to all the competitors. We had a very scary spot where York hit a superplex to Sampson through 2 barbed wire boards that were set up between the 2 rings, and then Sampson actually fell through the gap. I was like, oh fuck, I hope he's okay, but York hits a big crossbody and then hold the line for the win, so York advances into the Dream Tournament. But, there is a but. Aaron Dick then announces that after that performance, both Jordan Sampson and Xavier Black have earned their own spot as well. As I said before, just kudos to all 3, man, because that was just fucking bonkers from start to finish. Match number 6, we had the DMDU Heavyweight Championship. We had Kid Valiant with Rochelle Rogue, the challenger, versus Gore with Crackerjack, the champion. The promo that they showed by Crackerjack leading into this was really, really good. Of course, I don't think anyone's expecting different. Crackerjack, a master of the microphone. Kid Valiant kickstarts the match by diving onto Gore while Gore was making his entrance, but Gore quickly turns the tide. Gore military pressed Kid Valiant from one ring to the other multiple occasions and delivered some absolutely vicious chops while screaming about child abuse, which probably shouldn't be laughing at, but it's wrestling, it's fine, he's playing a character. Gore was just having fun ragdolling Kid Valiant. Kid Valiant managed to snap off a hurricanrana out of nowhere, followed it up with a curb stomp and a frog splash, but Gore kicked out at 1. Gore hit a string of powerbombs to retain the DMDU Heavyweight Championship. Kid Valiant bringing the fight as much as he can, but Gore still winning very much indecisive fashion. If that's not enough, after the match, Crackerjack hits the choke breaker on Rochelle Rogue, puts staples in Rochelle's head while Gore was forcing Kid Valiant to watch. Rochelle Rogue been saying for a while that she is deathmatch ready, and I guess from the looks of things, we may be on the cusp of seeing that. Match number 7, we had the street fight for the DMDU Tag Team Championships. We had Big Dude Energy, Big Dave, and Ricky Gilmore, the challengers, versus Misspent Youth, Aisha, and ya boy Murdoch, the champions. If BDE loses, they can no longer challenge for the titles as long as Misspent Youth are champions. Misspent Youth kickstart the match with an attack from behind, but BDE take control and introduce a ladder to the mix. BDE get their Haas and Benjamin on with some trademark BDE offense with the leapfrog, but this time it's a leapfrog off a ladder, just to add a little bit more pain to the equation. BDE built a contraption on the outside with doors and chairs. They tried to do the border toss on Murdoch, much like they did back on Roll On, but this time Aisha makes the save. BDE paying homage to some old school Dudley Boys offense here with the what's up, but Murdoch sends Big Dave flying off the top rope to the floor through the contraption that they just built, and Dave is carried out, leaving Ricky Gilmore in a 2-on-1 situation. Murdoch whips the back of Ricky Gilmore with a leather belt, which gave me some hardcore flashbacks to 2018. If you know, you know. Ricky Gilmore gets fired up from the bell shots though, tries to take control, but the numbers game gets too much of him. You know, that's some excellent tag team psychology back out. Murdoch crashes and burns on a swanton bomb attempt off a ladder. Big Dave manages to will his way back into the match and cleans house. BDE go for simultaneous pins and get a double near fall, but then Aisha takes control with a springboard codebreaker. Murdoch hits a package pile driver on Ricky Gilmore into Big Dave, attempts a very lazy cocky cover, which does allow for the kick out. Murdoch did a cannonball into the corner onto Big Dave through a chair, and then Misspent Youth hit their trademark package pile driver double stomp combo, with Big Dave somehow kicking out of both of those, respectively. Gilmore gets back into the fray, allowing BDE to take control. Ricky hits a coast-to-coast on Murdoch, driving a ladder into Murdoch's face, but Aisha just manages to make the save at the last second on a pin attempt. Commentary doing a great job of driving the point home of the stipulation in the match. Of course, BDE loses, they can't challenge, so they're pulling out all the steps, they're fighting through all the pain, they're showing that fighting spirit, yada yada yada, bloody blah. Wrestling! Aisha attempts to use a glass bottle, similar to how Misspent Youth won back at Roll On, but BDE hit the 3DE on Aisha through a door before hitting the big dude slam move on Murdoch to win the match and become the new Deathmatch Down Under Tag Team Champions. Fans absolutely going wild at that result. The rise of BDE has been an absolute thing of beauty to watch. And, you know, they've just finished their rookie year. They're only going to keep getting better and better from here. And shout out to Kyle Eade, who was seen marking out front row as well. But match number 8 / the main event. It's War Games! The Anti-Deathmatch Party versus Team Deathmatch Down Under. Anti-Deathmatch Party with the person advantage in this one. For those of you that haven't seen a War Games match, it's a steel cage surrounding both rings with one member of each team where they go at it for a designated number of time before the team with the advantage have one of their teammates come in, making it a 2-on-1, and then both teams will alternate at smaller designated intervals until all members of both teams are in the match. Match cannot end until all members of both teams have entered the fray, and then it ends by pinfall, submission, or surrender, which I guess is still technically a submission to some extent. But in this match particularly, we started it off with Loverboy, son! Loverboy Lockie Hendricks versus the Australian Deathmatch Champion, Callum Butcher. The ruling was that these two had 5 minutes between themselves before another ADMP member would come out for the advantage, and then the teams would alternate every 3 minutes. And as I said, all members of both teams must be in the fray, and then, only then, can the match be won by either side. Lockie Hendricks attempting to play a kind of cat and mouse game with Callum Butcher by running away as best as you can while locked in a cage, I guess. Just trying to get in Callum's head, and as well as trying to kill time before he'd have the advantage. Hector Jones was the next man out for ADMP, and as expected, the numbers did take advantage, as hard as Callum did try to fight. Damian Rivers was meant to be next for Team DMDU, but didn't come out, which makes you think that obviously that may have been ADMP's victory early on. Callan once again tries to fight back, but the numbers were too much, and it only got worse when Katie Lux comes out for ADMP, making it a 3-on-1 situation. Up to that point, ADMP really stuck to their guns on not touching the weapons and traditional wrestling, but the violence is brought in by Katie Lux. She puts a toolbox on the ring and stabs Callan right in the face with a screwdriver. Oh, the humanity! Lockie Hendricks was fish-hooking Callan with a spare turnbuckle, and finally Callan gets a little bit of reprieve with Mad Dog entering for Team DMDU. He comes at ADMP from all angles, gaining a slight advantage, despite the numbers still being stacked against them. Mad Dog quickly introduces some plunder to the equation. Mad Dog and Lockie Hendricks would teeter back and forth, both trying to put each other through a thumbtack-covered door, but after Mitchell Wright enters as the 4th member for the ADMP, helps turn the tide, Lockie Hendricks hits an avalanche swinging neckbreaker on Mad Dog through the thumbtack-covered door. Holy shit! Holy shit! Mad Dog would still continue to set up more plunder throughout all the chaos as he was brawling. I did have a chuckle though. Some fans just randomly yelled out, "You suck, Katie!" and she just instantly yelled back, "Get fucked!" as she was still brawling, which I thought was pretty great. The delivery of the line, it was just really well done. Lobo enters next for Team DMDU, and the first thing he does is jump off of a ladder and smash Katie Lux through 2 tables that were stacked up on each other. I believe the bottom one was actually covered in barbed wire. This does allow Team DMDU to get a second win of sorts. Callan, Mad Dog, Lobo dissecting ADMP, and clearly at home amidst all the chaos. ADMP's music hits, and their 5th member is nobody. That doesn't seem to exist. And then we have a super Tower of Doom spot with everyone crashing and burning. Lockie Hendricks taking the brunt of it because he came off the top of the cage. And then Damian Rivers finally makes his way out on crutches, seemingly very hurt by ADMP's attack, but it's all a big setup. Rivers cracked Callum Butcher with a crutch, reveals an anti-deathmatch party shirt, and they all have a group hug. The heat from that was freaking amazing, and I absolutely love it. Or should I say, fuck you, Damo, you turncoat piece of shit, motherfucker. Crowd were chanting, fuck you, Damo. Beautifully done, like, just fucking love it. Joel Bateman enters the fray for Team DMDU, getting his Terry Funk on with a whirlybird with a ladder, taking out ADMP, allowing Team DMDU to absolutely punish ADMP. Lobo especially was just fucking shit up, which had Tyson Baxter just losing his mind on commentary, and honestly, I was right there with him while watching it. We get a little bit of confusion though, because some more music hits, and then out comes Campbell Crawford, aka Canvey, formerly known as Atlas Whitaker in DMDU, and he has a whippersnipper to a fucking huge pop, and he is announced as a last-minute member of TMDU, making it 5 versus 5 after all, even with Damian Rivers being a turncoat, and thus meaning the match has now officially begun. We had a bit of miscommunication, however. Callum Butcher accidentally took the whippersnipper instead of Damian Rivers, and so do you fucked up chant here. Katie Lux puts it on the line with a crossbody off the cage, taking out everyone in her sights. The referees threw up the X, symbolising that someone was hurt, and they take Katie Lux out. In a neck breaks, I'm hoping that she's okay. It did look to be a work to me, as not long after Lockie Hendricks was knocked out of the cage, and then he and Hector Jones end up basically just hightailing out of the arena. But if it was a work, I just wish they'd come up with another gesture for these sorts of things. This is just my opinion maybe, but I feel like the X is sacred, and I know that they're doing it because they're playing, to the smart fans, but I feel like it just shouldn't be done in case there is genuinely a serious injury. Maybe it's just me, just my opinion, but it just seems off to me, with all due respect to DMDU, like all the companies in the world have probably done it at some point or another, but just, I don't know. But Mad Dog hits a leg drop off the top of the cage. It was freaking insane. And then Callum Butcher calls out to Erin Dick and says, hey, bring me the tubes. And she says, that's my cue. And she pulls out a fucking huge bundle of tubes that she had sitting underneath the commentary desk. They hold them against Mr. Wright, and he surrenders before they can do any damage to him, giving Team DMDU the win. But Callum Butcher still shatters the tubes over Wright's head anyway, just for good measure. We had a very heartfelt promo by Lobo to send the fans home happy as we go off the air. But just fuck me, what a freaking show. I do apologize to you guys. As always, my ADHD ass is tripping all over my words, plus my blind ass is having trouble reading my notes, but just what a fucking show. Shows like this are why I love professional wrestling, whether it's Australian or otherwise. Just doesn't matter anywhere in the world. Doesn't matter what kind, deathmatch, lucha, technical, comedy. I just fucking love professional wrestling, and I just love what DMDU has done for it in this country in such a short amount of time, and I have no doubt they will continue to do that for a very long time. Like, I know I'm constantly shilling for DMDU, essentially, but that's probably what people look at it as, but they're putting out a fucking great product, and it's doing wonders for the business as a whole in this country, and just kudos to everyone, from the wrestlers to the announcers to the referees to the camera people, all the way down to the ring crew, for having a hand in such a fantastic, dare I say, such a sensational product. And again, as always, if you guys haven't checked out DMDU and you think it might be for you, or you want to see what it's about, to see if it is for you, go to IWTV. Use code DMDU. You get 5 days free. They have hours upon hours upon hours upon hours upon hours upon hours. It's basically the fucking WWE Network, but for the independents, only bigger. Like, it's just, there's so much stuff on there. 100% go check that out. But just what a fucking show. Kudos to everyone. So awesome seeing Lobo kill it. How crazy that we just got a fucking War Games match in Australia. Just hats off to DMDU. Awesome show. I'm repeating myself, so I'm going to bring myself to a close for this week. I thoroughly enjoyed all of the wrestles this week. And as always, tell me what you guys thought of it. Tell me your thoughts, your opinions, and again, let's have a conversation. Let's discuss. Let's have a friendly debate. I know I repeat myself, crack record, but we've got to get this thing going. Like, I'm having so many of you guys giving me good feedback and tell me how much you love the show, but tell me about the actual content of the show. What's going on? What are you thinking? But thank you all for your continued support. Check all the links in the bio for my social media merch and upcoming events that I have had a hand in. I'm very proud of how my poster for the ICW Insanity event coming up turned out. You guys should definitely give them that a watch if you have the means to travel to Canberra. I can't wait for that poster to be released on social media. The song of the week this week was You Are Not Your Past by Citizen Soldier. The match of the week this week was Raven versus CM Punk in a Clockwork Orange House of Fun match at Ring of Honor Beating the Odds in 2003. I am the Essential John L. Crossfire, and you wonderful human being listening to this podcast right now, even though it's about to end, you were just caught in conversation. Peace.